Ever find yourself wondering, like really wondering, if getting that next promotion or maybe moving into a slightly bigger place is actually going to make you happier?
Yeah, it's a question people have been pondering for ages, really. And the answers are, well, kind of surprising.
You've got some really interesting thoughts on this, so let's dive in.
All right, so today we're going deep, really deep into this whole wealth and happiness thing. We're going to unpack why we're so driven to, make more money, get those possessions. It's almost like it's programmed into us, right?
Right.
But then we're going to look at why getting richer doesn't always equal getting happier. And ultimately, what really makes for a truly fulfilling life.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? So today we're really aiming to peel back the layers on all of this. We want to figure out what's at the heart of this desire for wealth and why there's often this weird disconnect between our financial goals and, well, how happy we actually feel.
Exactly. And we want to arm you with some solid knowledge, stuff that goes beyond the surface level.
Right, stuff you can actually use.
Exactly. Practical stuff. So let's start at the very beginning. Why are we so obsessed with getting richer in the first place? It turns out a lot of it comes down to our evolutionary roots.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. For most of human history, having more stuff, more resources meant you were more likely to survive, right? More food, better shelter, all that. It was crucial for making it to tomorrow.
So it's not just about having a fancy car, it's like in our DNA.
Yeah, exactly. That urge to gather resources to make sure you have enough, it's a deep-seated survival mechanism, and it doesn't stop there. Historically, having wealth also meant you had a better shot at having kids.
Makes sense. The more resources you have, the better you can care for your offspring.
Precisely. Being a good provider was a big deal when it came to passing on your genes.
So fast forward to today. We're not exactly living in caves anymore, but are those old instincts still kicking around?
Absolutely. Those psychological mechanisms are still at work big time. That need for security, knowing you'll be okay even if things get tough financially, that desire for social status, for belonging, it's all tied up with how we view wealth.
So it's not just about the money itself, it's about what it represents.
Exactly. Historically and even now, wealth is often seen as a marker of status. It's like a signal to others that you've made it.
And what about things like finding a partner? I mean, we see it all the time. People are often drawn to those who are financially stable.
You're right on the money there. Wealth can be a sign of someone's ability to provide, to take care of a partner and kids. From an evolutionary perspective, this was super important when choosing a mate. It's a deep-seated preference, even if we're not always aware of it.
Okay, so we're wired to want wealth. But here's the thing. We all know people who have a ton of money but seem miserable. And then there are others who have much less and are totally content. So where's the disconnect?
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. While financial security is super important, it definitely takes the edge off stress and lets us cover the basics. Research actually shows that after a certain point, more money doesn't equal more happiness for most people.
Huh. It's not a one-to-one thing then.
Nope, not at all. It's not like the more money you have, the happier you'll automatically be. So the takeaway here isn't to stop striving for financial stability, but to realize that after a certain point, you might get more bang for your buck, so to speak, by focusing on things that really boost happiness, like your relationships or personal growth.
So it's like there's a point of diminishing returns when it comes to money and happiness.
Precisely. Once your basic needs are met, other factors start to play a much bigger role in how satisfied you are with life. Things like your relationships, your physical and mental health, having a purpose in life, being part of your community. These things often matter way more in terms of your day-to-day happiness.
It kind of goes against what we're often told, right? That more money will solve everything.
Yeah, that's a strong message we get from society. But the data tells a more nuanced story. Now, let's get into some of the psychological stuff that complicates our relationship with wealth.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's going on in our heads that makes it so tricky?
Well, first off, there's greed, that constant wanting more, more, more. And it often comes with this deep fear of not having enough, like a scarcity mindset.
So it's like that fear of missing out, but with money.
Exactly. And then you've got social comparison. We're constantly looking at what others have and judging our own success and happiness against theirs.
Keeping up with the Joneses, as they say.
Right. And this can trap you in this endless cycle of wanting more, regardless of what you actually need or how content you really are.
It's like being on a treadmill that never stops.
Yeah, and don't forget about cultural norms. Our societies often place a huge emphasis on material things and financial success, and this shapes our ideas of what a good life looks like.
So all these things together can really mess with our perspective on wealth and happiness.
For sure. It's a bit of a worrying picture, this constant striving for more. But the good news is that we can develop a healthier relationship with money. And that's where mindful money management comes in.
Okay, tell me more. What's that all about?
Well, mindful money management is about being more aware and intentional with your finances. It's about knowing your spending habits, understanding what triggers you emotionally when it comes to money, and making choices with thought instead of just reacting impulsively.
So it's about bringing more awareness to our financial lives.
Exactly. And a key part of this is making sure your financial choices are aligned with your values and goals. If you know what truly matters to you, you can make financial decisions that support those things instead of just chasing after more money for the sake of it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And this approach, where your financial decisions are in sync with your values, can lead to a much deeper sense of well-being that goes beyond just having a fat bank account.
You mentioned earlier how wealth can be a signal of social status. Let's dig into that. What are these status symbols everyone talks about?
Right. Status symbols are basically possessions or behaviors that show off your social standing, or at least how wealthy and successful you seem to be. They can be both a historical and a very modern thing.
So it's like a way of showing others where you stand in the pecking order.
Precisely. And this desire for status, it ties back to those deep evolutionary drives we were talking about, that need for social hierarchy and even, attracting a mate.
It's like peacocks with their fancy feathers. The bigger and brighter the tail, the better the signal.
Exactly. Historically and still today, things like expensive cars, luxury goods, or certain clothes act as these signals. But here's the interesting thing. What counts as a status symbol can change depending on the generation.
Really? Like what?
Well, some people say that younger generations see things like having unique experiences, having a flexible work-life balance, or investing in eco-friendly stuff as bigger signs of success than traditional luxury items.
So it's not all about flashing your cash anymore.
Not necessarily. While showing off wealth through expensive things is still common, there's a growing awareness that true wealth can be shown in more subtle ways.
Subtle ways. Like what?
Think about how someone acts or even carries themselves. Things like quiet confidence, being a good communicator, or being generous without needing praise. These can sometimes signal a level of comfort and success that goes beyond material things.
That's really interesting. It's like there are different dialects in the language of wealth. A while back, I felt this pressure to get the latest gadget, like it would somehow make me cooler. But that feeling faded pretty quickly. And honestly, focusing on improving my skills and relationships has been way more fulfilling in the long run.
That's a fantastic point. It really highlights how the idea of status is changing and what actually brings lasting satisfaction. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that directly impacts our financial well-being. Financial literacy.
Right, that makes sense. Being good with money must be a big part of overall happiness.
Absolutely. Financial literacy is basically being able to understand and manage your money well. It's about things like budgeting, saving, investing, and understanding how different financial products work.
So it's about having the knowledge and skills to navigate the world of money?
Precisely. And there's a strong connection between financial stress and, well, not feeling great mentally. When people are overwhelmed by debt, not having enough savings, or just not knowing how to manage their money, it can cause a lot of anxiety and even depression.
Yeah, we hear about that a lot, the toll that financial insecurity takes on people's mental health.
It's a huge problem, and this is where financial resilience comes in. It's about being able to cope with unexpected financial bumps in the road, things like suddenly losing your job or having big medical bills. It's about being able to bounce back from those setbacks.
So it's like having a financial safety net and the skills to navigate tough times.
Exactly. And improving your financial well-being isn't just about earning more money. It's also about having practical strategies, like making a conscious spending plan where you decide where your money goes, and practicing mindful spending, being aware of what you're buying and how it affects your overall financial health, but also if it aligns with your values.
Those all sound like practical things we can do to feel more in control.
Exactly. And that sense of control can really reduce financial stress and make you feel better overall. Now, let's zoom out a bit and think about how we measure well-being beyond just economic indicators.
That's important, right? Because as we've been discussing, just looking at the economy doesn't really capture the full picture of happiness in a society.
Exactly. More and more people are recognizing that using the overall economic output, like the GDP, isn't enough to measure a nation's progress or how well its citizens are actually doing. So this has sparked conversations about going beyond GDP and finding better ways to assess the health of a society.
So what are some of those alternative measures?
They cover a whole range of factors like the quality of our environment, how connected people feel to each other, health outcomes, education levels, and even how happy people say they are and how satisfied they are with their lives. The idea is to get a more complete and accurate picture of how well a society is doing beyond just the money it's making.
So it's about looking at quality of life, not just economic growth.
Exactly. And this has led to the idea of a well-being economy, one that prioritizes quality of life alongside economic prosperity. The goal is to create an economic system that benefits both people and the planet, rather than just focusing on endless growth.
It's a pretty big shift in thinking.
It is, and it connects to these big global efforts to build a better future for everyone. These efforts are all about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. That includes things like good health, quality education, more equality, and a healthy environment, not just financial wealth.
It all circles back to this idea that happiness and well-being are multifaceted.
Absolutely. To really understand the relationship between wealth and happiness, we have to look beyond just dollar signs and consider what truly makes people feel content and fulfilled.
So as we've seen, the desire to understand wealth and happiness is super relevant, and it's something you clearly care about a lot. We've learned that while our instinct to chase resources is deeply ingrained, true, lasting happiness is a much more complex equation.
It's not just about what's in your bank account, but also about the quality of your relationships, your health, and your sense of purpose.
And for someone like you, who's all about gaining knowledge quickly but thoroughly, the key seems to be focusing on building a well-rounded sense of well-being. Where financial stability is important, sure, but it doesn't define your happiness.
Exactly. Being mindful of your spending and making sure your financial decisions align with what you truly value can be incredibly powerful steps toward a more fulfilling life.
And that brings us to a really interesting question for you all to ponder. In a world that's so focused on material success, how can we consciously cultivate those non-material aspects of our lives that research shows bring us the most joy and fulfillment?